Listen, I need you to hear this story, because what I'm about to tell you will break your heart and put it back together again. I'm talking about the day I found myself lying in a hospital bed, burning with fever, while my whole future slipped through my fingers. My name is Maya Johnson, and this is the story of how my 5-year-old daughter saved our lives. I was lying there in the emergency room at Grady Hospital in Atlanta, sweat rolling down my forehead, my body feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. The white sheets were damp beneath me, and I could barely catch my breath. But honey, I had to make that phone call. I had to try. My hands were trembling as I held the phone to my ear, forcing my voice to sound stronger than I felt. "Hello, I'm so sorry," I managed to say, each word feeling like it was being dragged out of me. "I've been preparing for this interview, but I'm very sick. I'm in the hospital right now. Please, I truly want to come." And you know what they told me? That cold voice on the other end cut through me like ice. "Ma'am, we do not reschedule interviews. If you are not here at the exact time, your application will be canceled. Thank you." Click. Just like that, it was over. I lowered that phone, and all the strength just drained out of me. I stared up at those fluorescent lights, blinking back tears that I didn't want my baby to see. "Please," I whispered to nobody and everybody, "please don't take this chance away from me. My daughter, she deserves a better life." Now let me tell you about my Zara. She was sitting in the corner of that room on a plastic chair, her little feet swinging above the floor. 5 years old with the biggest brown eyes you've ever seen and beautiful cornrow braids adorned with colorful beads. She didn't say a word, just sat there watching me with those wise eyes of hers. This child had seen me work 3 jobs, watched me suffer through endless nights, held on to hope when I had nothing left to give. And now she was watching me cry, and I know she was thinking, something has to change. The next morning came early. The sky was still that soft gray color when my baby girl opened her eyes. I was asleep, my face pale, my lips dry, still burning with that fever. The 4 dripped beside my bed, and I had no idea what was about to happen. Zara slipped off that plastic chair, without making a sound. She walked over to my bedside and stood on her tiptoes, and with one small hand, she carefully moved a strand of hair from my forehead. "Mama," she whispered so softly, "you need to rest now." Then she did something that still makes my heart stop when I think about it. She looked at my worn leather purse, the one I never let out of my sight, and slowly unzipped it. She pulled out that manila folder, the one with my resume printed on good paper that I'd saved money to buy. She held it tight in both hands like it was treasure. She went to the corner where her clothes were folded in a small plastic bag and chose her favorite outfit. You remember that dress, the bright Sunday dress with purple, gold, and red patterns that her grandmother had sent from Mississippi? I had pressed it so carefully the night before the interview. She put it on with such care, then looked at her small patent leather shoes, worn but still shining. She slid her feet into them, hugged that folder close to her chest, walked to the door, looked back at me one last time, and stepped out into the hallway. My baby stood at that MARTA bus stop just outside Grady Hospital all by herself. Can you imagine? 5 years old, standing there while the morning rush hour was beginning, cars honking, people hurrying past with their coffee cups, the Atlanta skyline gleaming in the distance. But she didn't flinch. She looked down at the paper she'd taken from our refrigerator, a colorful flyer with a picture of a tall glass building and the company's name, Thompson Industries. Right beside it was a route number I had circled in red ink, Route 21. She waited until she saw that MARTA bus with the matching number. When it pulled up, a kind older woman with silver hair noticed her struggling to climb up. "Where are you going, baby girl?" the woman asked, smiling warmly. "To the big glass building," Zara said, hugging that folder tight. "My mama is supposed to have a job there." The woman's eyes softened. "Well, then sit right here next to me. I'll tell you when to get off." My baby sat quietly, her feet swinging above the floor of that bus, holding the folder like it was magic, like it could fix everything. Around her, Atlanta buzzed with life. The radio played gospel music, people talked on their phones, and the city rolled by outside the windows. But in her heart, she felt calm. She had a mission. About 45 minutes later, that woman tapped her gently. "Your stop, little one." There it is. Zara stepped off that bus and looked up at the tallest building she'd ever seen, a gleaming tower of glass and steel reaching toward the clouds. The morning sun reflected off its surface like diamonds. She took a deep breath, straightened her dress, and walked toward those revolving doors. The front doors of Thompson Industries opened with a soft whoosh as my baby stepped inside. The lobby was magnificent, honey. Marble floors so shiny she could see her reflection, crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, fresh flowers on every table. Behind a large curved desk sat a young black woman with natural hair styled in a beautiful twist-out and gold hoop earrings. Her name tag read Jasmine. Jasmine was busy typing when a small shadow appeared at her desk. She looked up and blinked. Standing in front of her was this little girl in a bright Sunday dress holding a manila folder almost half her size. Jasmine leaned forward gently. "Hello, sweetheart. Are you lost?" Zara shook her head firmly.
"No, ma'am."
"I'm here for the interview." "An interview?" "Yes, ma'am," Zara said, standing straighter. "It's my mama's interview. She's very sick and couldn't come, but she really needs this job, so I came instead." For a moment, Jasmine didn't know what to say. People in the lobby had slowed down watching. 2 security guards began to move closer, frowning. But Jasmine quickly raised a hand toward them. "No, it's okay," she said, then turned back to my daughter. "What's your mama's name, baby?" "Maya Johnson," Zara replied clearly. Jasmine checked her computer. And yes, I was scheduled for 9 o'clock that morning. She took a slow breath, then pressed a button on her earpiece. "Mr. Thompson, please come down to the lobby." "No, don't ask questions."
"Just tell him he needs to see this."
"It's important." She looked down at Zara and smiled softly. "You're very brave, little one. Now let me tell you about Marcus Thompson." On the top floor of Thompson Industries, he stood beside a large floor-to-ceiling window overlooking downtown Atlanta. Tall, dark-skinned, sharply dressed in a charcoal gray suit. Only 32 years old, and already one of the most respected CEOs in the city. People said he was brilliant but cold, that he didn't smile much, didn't waste time, and cared only about results. He had built his company from nothing, and every decision was calculated for success. His assistant entered quietly. "Sir, about the 9 a.m. interview candidate. You might want to handle this one yourself." Marcus frowned, not looking away from the window. "I thought I said I wasn't to be disturbed today." "I know, sir," she said carefully. "But this is different. Please just come downstairs." With a sigh, Marcus straightened his tie and stepped into the elevator. He expected another desperate applicant or some kind of scheduling mistake. But when those elevator doors opened, he stopped. Right in the middle of the lobby stood a tiny girl in a colorful dress, holding a folder almost as wide as her chest. Her back was straight, her eyes were steady, and she radiated a quiet confidence that filled the room. She turned and looked up at him. "Are you the boss?" "I am," he replied slowly. Zara stepped forward and handed him the folder with both hands. "This is my mama's. She was supposed to come, but she's very sick. So I came instead." Marcus raised an eyebrow, genuinely surprised. "Why would you do that?" She lifted her chin, her voice clear and strong. "Because Mama deserves more than just surviving." "You hear me? Those words, because Mama deserves more than just surviving." They hit him like quiet thunder. He looked down at the folder, then back at my child. Around them, the whole lobby had gone silent. Marcus took a long breath, then turned to Jasmine. "Cancel my next meeting." "Sir." He didn't repeat himself. Then he looked at Zara and gave the smallest nod. "Come with me." She smiled, the first real smile he'd seen in his office building in months, and followed him down the hallway. The conference room was large, modern, and intimidating. Marcus pulled out a chair for Zara. It was too tall for her, but she climbed up with quiet confidence and sat straight, her small legs swinging above the floor. He sat across from her, placing the folder gently on the table. For a moment, he just looked at her, This small girl who had walked into a world meant for adults and handled it with more grace than most of his business partners. "So, Zara," he said, his voice softer than before, "can you tell me why your mother wants this job?" My baby didn't rush. She placed her tiny hands on the edge of the table and thought for a moment. "Mama works all the time," she began. "She cleans office buildings at night. She serves food at the diner during the day, and she does people's hair on weekends. She never gets to rest." Marcus nodded slowly, listening. "She doesn't buy anything for herself," Zara continued. "Even when her shoes get holes, she says, 'These ones are still good,' and then she buys me new ones instead." Marcus glanced down at Zara's shining patent leather shoes. He didn't say anything, but something in his expression softened. "She used to go to college," Zara said quietly. "She showed me her books once. She told me she loved learning about business, but when she had me, she had to stop everything to take care of me." Marcus's eyes didn't leave her face. "She told me one night," Zara said, almost whispering, "that she's tired of just surviving. She wants to use her brain again. She wants a job where people see how smart she really is." The room fell completely silent. No resume had ever spoken to him like this. No interview had ever moved him the way my child's simple truth just had. "She practices her interview answers in the mirror," Zara added. "She bought this folder with her last $20 because she said presentation matters, and she told me that if she got this job, maybe one day I could go to college too, and I wouldn't have to worry about money." Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them and looked at this remarkable little girl. "Zara," he said quietly, "what do you want to be when you grow up?" She smiled. "I want to be like Mama, strong and smart and never giving up." After Zara left the conference room with Jasmine, Marcus remained seated. The folder was still open in front of him, and he finally looked down at my resume. The name at the top read Maya Johnson. I had studied business administration at Georgia State University, full academic scholarship, Dean's List, president of the Black Student Business Association, peer mentor, community volunteer. Marcus raised an eyebrow. I had been sharp, driven, full of promise. Then suddenly the timeline of success stopped. No graduation, no internship. Instead, the next section read, customer service representative, night custodian, waitress, hair stylist. He stared at it, slowly tracing the timeline with his finger. The story was clear without being told. A young woman with a bright future, suddenly forced to choose survival over dreams. Marcus leaned back in his chair, silent. He had read thousands of resumes in his life, most full of impressive words and empty achievements. But this was real. This was a life interrupted by love and responsibility, not by failure or lack of ambition. He closed the folder slowly, and something inside his chest, something that had been cold and closed for years, began to warm. That afternoon, a delivery van pulled up outside Grady Hospital. A nurse brought a beautiful arrangement into my room and placed it on the bedside table. I stirred slowly, still weak from that fever. My eyes opened halfway, then widened when I saw it. A gorgeous bouquet of sunflowers, roses, and baby's breath in a crystal vase. Next to it was a small gift box wrapped in cream-colored paper, and a note leaned against it. My hands trembled as I reached for the card. The handwriting was neat and professional. To the strongest woman I've yet to meet. Your daughter is remarkable. Marcus Thompson. Inside the box was a small carton of chocolate milk, Zara's favorite, and a note that read, for a very brave little girl. I sat up quickly, my heart racing. Zara, I whispered, my eyes darting around the room. The plastic chair was empty. Panic filled my chest. I grabbed my phone and quickly found the number on the company flyer. My fingers shook as I dialed. Thompson Industries, this is Jasmine speaking. Please, I said quickly. This is Maya Johnson. I think my daughter may have come to your office today. She's only 5. I'm so sorry. Jasmine chuckled softly. Don't worry, Miss Johnson. Your daughter is safe. She's right here coloring in Mr. Thompson's office. My throat tightened. I don't understand. In fact, Jasmine continued warmly, she may have just earned you a second chance. Mr. Thompson would like to invite you for a formal interview tomorrow at 10 a.m. Are you feeling well enough to come in? I looked at the flowers, at the note, at the chocolate milk. Tears rolled down my cheeks. Yes, I whispered. Yes, I'll be there. The next morning, my fever had broken, but my body still felt weak. Even so, I didn't hesitate. I showered carefully, then put on my best outfit, a navy blue skirt suit that I'd bought at a thrift store and had tailored to fit perfectly. I brushed my hair back into a professional bun and applied my makeup with steady hands. Zara held my hand as we stood outside those glass doors of Thompson Industries. "You're going to do great, Mama," my baby whispered. I smiled, fighting back tears. "Because of you, my love." Inside the building, Jasmine greeted me with a warm smile. "Miss Johnson, welcome. Mr. Thompson is expecting you." I followed her through quiet hallways, my heart pounding with every step. When the door to the executive office opened, Marcus Thompson stood by his desk. He looked different this time, less intimidating, more human. He stepped forward, offering a firm handshake. "Miss Johnson, I'm glad you're feeling better." "Thank you, sir," I said softly. Marcus smiled gently. "Your daughter gave the most powerful interview I've seen in all my years here." I looked down, my cheeks warming. "Now," Marcus said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk, "I'd like to hear from you." I nodded, sat down, and opened my folder. This time, I would speak for myself. 2 weeks later, I walked into Thompson Industries as a marketing associate. It wasn't a senior role, no big title, but honey, it was a beginning. Some staff gave me polite smiles. Others whispered behind my back, "That's the woman with the child. She's only here because the CEO feels sorry for her." But I didn't let it break me. I arrived early, before the office even filled. I stayed late, long after others had gone home. I read every document I was given, took detailed notes in meetings, and watched the senior team closely. How they spoke, how they moved, how they thought. I didn't ask for special treatment. I just worked quietly, faithfully. And when I made mistakes, because I did, I apologized, corrected them, and never repeated them. One day when I stayed late finishing a report, a sandwich quietly appeared on my desk. No note, but I knew who had sent it. On another day, when I called to say I'd be late because Zara had a fever, Marcus's text was short and kind. "Family first.
Take your time."
He didn't hover. He didn't make me feel like charity.
He simply supported me.
And in that quiet, steady space, I began to grow. Not just in the job, but in the belief that maybe, just maybe, I belonged. Every Friday after school, a little burst of joy entered Thompson Industries. Zara came with her small backpack, coloring books, and a bright smile that could light up the entire lobby. The security guards waved her in like she was royalty. Jasmine kept her favorite apple juice cold in the office refrigerator. By now, she had her own special spot in Marcus's office, a small cushion by the window, a box of crayons, and a tiny desk just her size. She would sit quietly while I finished work, humming softly and drawing pictures of families, houses, and dreams. Marcus sometimes paused his phone calls just to see what she had created. One time she drew a picture of 3 people holding hands under a rainbow and labeled it "My Family." She gave it to Marcus, who hung it on his office wall next to his business awards. The staff got used to her presence. In fact, they started to love it. They called her Little Boss. She waved at everyone in the hallway, shared her animal crackers, and once reminded the finance manager to eat lunch because Mama says grown-ups forget to take care of themselves. She didn't know it, but her quiet joy brought life to the office. And to Marcus, she brought something he hadn't felt in years: peace. It was a quiet Friday evening. Most of the staff had gone home. The office lights were dimmed, and the Atlanta skyline glowed with the orange sunset. In one of the conference rooms, Marcus and I sat side by side reviewing slides for an upcoming presentation. Zara sat in the corner, curled up with a small blanket and her juice box, coloring silently. We worked in comfortable silence, occasionally sharing a smile or a quiet joke. Then, just as I stood to pack my bag, a small voice broke the air. "Mama." I turned. "Yes, baby?" Zara looked up, her eyes big and serious. "Can I call Uncle Marcus, Daddy?" The room went completely still. My hands froze midair. Marcus's pen stopped moving. The only sound was the hum of the air conditioning. Zara continued softly. "He always picks me up when I'm sad. He brings me juice boxes. He helps me with my homework. He reads me stories. And he makes you smile, Mama. He makes you smile the way daddies are supposed to." My throat tightened. I turned to Marcus, afraid of what I might see in his face, but he was already walking toward us. He knelt down beside Zara and gently placed his hand on her small shoulder. His voice was low, a little shaky. "It would be my honor, little one." I wept as Marcus gently embraced Zara. My tears weren't from pain this time, but from something softer, deeper, love. I had fought so long, so hard, without help. And now here stood a man who had once been cold, now choosing my child like his own. Something in me finally released. The walls I had built around my heart began to crumble. 6 months later, at Thompson Industries' annual Christmas party, the office sparkled with lights, music, and laughter. I stood in a beautiful emerald green dress, glowing beside the Christmas tree. Zara twirled in silver shoes, her cream-colored dress catching the lights as she spun. Marcus watched from across the room, no spreadsheets in his hands for once, just a quiet peace in his eyes. Later, someone tapped a glass. Marcus stepped to the microphone. "Usually I talk about profits and projections," he began, his voice carrying across the room. "But tonight, I want to share a different kind of story." He told the room about the tiny girl who came to the lobby with a folder twice her size. How she spoke with wisdom beyond her years. How her love and courage brought one of the company's best employees to Thompson Industries. I lift my glass to Maya Johnson, who has exceeded every expectation, and to Zara, who believed in her mama before the rest of us did. He looked directly at us, his voice growing softer. "Family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about choice. Sometimes it's about love showing up in the smallest shoes." The room erupted in applause. Under those golden lights, we stood together, mother, daughter, and the man who had quietly chosen us both. But you know what? That wasn't the end of our story. That was just the beginning. 18 months had passed since my baby walked into Thompson Industries with my dreams tucked under her arm. The Atlanta skyline looked the same through those floor-to-ceiling windows, but everything else had changed. I now sat in my own office on the 15th floor, my nameplate reading, Marketing Director. My desk was organized with family photos, Zara's school pictures, snapshots of weekend adventures, and one special photo of the three of us at Stone Mountain, looking like the family we had become. I had earned this promotion through sleepless nights, brilliant campaigns, and the respect of colleagues who had once whispered behind my back. Now they came to me for advice. In the corner of my office, Zara, now 7 years old and even more spirited, sat at her own small desk, homework spread out before her. She had grown taller, her cornrows now adorned with gold and silver beads that caught the afternoon light. "Mama, what's a hostile takeover?" Zara asked, looking up from her math homework. My pen froze. "Where did you hear that, baby?" The grown-ups in the elevator were talking about it. They said someone's trying to take Daddy Marcus's company. My heart clenched. I had been trying to shield Zara from the storm that was brewing around Thompson Industries. "Don't worry about grown-up business, sweetheart. Focus on your homework." But even as I said it, I felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on my shoulders. The boardroom on the 30th floor was tense. Marcus sat at the head of the mahogany table, his expression stern as he faced 12 board members. The city lights of Atlanta twinkled below, but the atmosphere inside was anything but peaceful. "The offer from Mitchell Holdings is substantial," said board member Patricia Wells, sliding a document across the table. "James Mitchell is offering 30% above market value for a controlling stake." Marcus didn't touch the document. "Thompson Industries is not for sale." "Marcus, be reasonable," said another board member, Robert Hayes. "Mitchell has a point. Since you've been distracted by personal matters, our quarterly numbers have been inconsistent." Distracted? Marcus's voice was dangerously quiet. Your relationship with Ms. Johnson. Patricia continued carefully. People are talking. They're saying you've lost your edge, that you're making decisions based on emotion rather than business sense. Marcus stood slowly, his hands flat on the table. Maya Johnson is the most talented marketing director this company has ever had. She's increased our client retention by 40% and brought in 3 major accounts this quarter alone. That's not the point, Robert said. The perception is that she's here because of your personal relationship. It's affecting company morale and investor confidence. Marcus's jaw tightened. This meeting is over. As the board members filed out, whispering among themselves, Marcus remained standing by the window. He had built this company from nothing, but now he felt like everything he had worked for was slipping away. 3 blocks away, in the elegant sitting room of a Buckhead mansion, Victoria Thompson sat sipping tea from fine china. At 62, she was still striking, silver hair perfectly styled, wearing a cream-colored St. John suit that cost more than most people's monthly salary. She had been watching the news about her son's company with growing concern. Not concern for Marcus. She had barely spoken to him since he was 18, but concern for the family name, the family reputation, and the family fortune. Victoria had left Marcus and his father when Marcus was just a boy, choosing her wealthy second husband over the struggle of raising a child. She had built a new life in New York society, far from the pain of her past mistakes. But now, seeing her son's picture in the business magazines, linked romantically with a single mother from a working-class background, she felt compelled to act. She picked up her phone and dialed her private investigator. Robert, I need everything you can find on Maya Johnson. Employment history, financial records, family background, everything. Yes, ma'am. May I ask why? Victoria's smile was cold. Because sometimes love needs a reality check. At Zara's school, Garden Hills Elementary, the afternoon pickup line was its usual chaos of parents, nannies, and carpools. I pulled up in my reliable Honda Civic, windows down, listening to gospel music. I waved at Zara, who came running with her backpack bouncing and her face bright with excitement. Mama, guess what? I got 100 on my spelling test. That's my brilliant girl. I hugged her tight. Daddy Marcus is going to be so proud. As we drove home, Zara chattered about her day, but my mind was elsewhere. I had noticed the whispers at work, the way some colleagues looked at me differently now. I had worked twice as hard as anyone else to prove myself, but the shadow of doubt was always there. Was I really good enough? Or was I just Marcus's girlfriend playing dress-up in a world where I didn't belong? That evening, Marcus arrived at my apartment in the West End, looking exhausted. It was a cozy 2-bedroom place that I had decorated with warmth and love. Family photos, Zara's artwork on the refrigerator, and the scent of dinner cooking on the stove. Daddy Marcus. Zara launched herself into his arms. Look what I made you. She handed him a drawing of a tall man in a suit standing next to a woman and a little girl. Above them, she had written my family in careful second-grade letters. Marcus's heart melted, the stress of the day momentarily forgotten. This is beautiful, little one. Should we hang it in my office?
Yes.
Right next to your important papers. I watched from the kitchen doorway, my heart full. This was what mattered. This was real. After dinner, when Zara was asleep, Marcus and I sat on the couch, my head on his shoulder. How was your day? I asked softly. Marcus hesitated. He didn't want to burden me with the company's problems, but he also couldn't lie to me. Challenging, he said finally. Mitchell Holdings is being aggressive. The board is concerned. I lifted my head to look at him.
About what?
About us, he said quietly. They think I'm distracted. That my feelings for you are affecting my business judgment. I felt a chill run down my spine. And what do you think? Marcus cupped my face gently. I think you're the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'm not going to let anyone make me feel ashamed of that. But even as he said the words, I could see the worry in his eyes. I was becoming a liability to the man I loved. The next morning, I arrived at work to find an elegant woman in the lobby, clearly out of place among the usual business crowd. The woman was studying the company directory with intense focus. May I help you? Jasmine asked from the reception desk. I'm looking for Maya Johnson, Victoria said, her voice carrying the authority of old money and social position. Do you have an appointment? Victoria's smile was sharp. I'm Marcus Thompson's mother. I think that's appointment enough. Jasmine's eyes widened. In all the years she had worked here, Marcus had never mentioned his mother. She pressed the intercom button. Miss Johnson, there's someone here to see you. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Victoria in a coffee shop around the corner from Thompson Industries. Victoria studied me with calculating eyes, taking in every detail: the modest but professional outfit, the absence of expensive jewelry, the way my hands showed I had once worked with them. You're quite beautiful, Victoria said finally. I can see why Marcus is smitten. Thank you, I said carefully. Though I'm not sure why you wanted to meet me. Victoria smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I wanted to meet the woman who's destroying my son's career. My back straightened. Excuse me? Oh, don't pretend you don't know. Thompson Industries is under attack, and it's because Marcus is seen as weak, distracted, in love with a woman who doesn't belong in his world. I've worked hard for everything I have, I said, my voice steady despite the anger building inside me. I'm sure you have, dear, but hard work isn't enough, is it? You can't make yourself into something you're not. You can't change where you came from or what people think when they look at you. Victoria leaned forward. I know about you, Maya. I know about your mother, who cleaned houses. I know about the jobs you worked before Marcus rescued you. I know about the apartment you live in, the car you drive, the world you come from. My hands trembled slightly, but I didn't back down. And what world is that? The world of struggle. The world of not enough. The world that Marcus is trying to lift you out of, even as it pulls him down. Victoria reached into her purse and pulled out a check. This is for $200,000. Enough to start over anywhere you want. Enough to give your daughter a good education, a good life. All you have to do is disappear. I stared at that check, my mind reeling. $200,000. More money than I had ever seen in my life. Enough to secure Zara's future, to never worry about bills again. Why? I whispered. Because I love my son. And sometimes love means making the hard choices. Sometimes love means walking away. Victoria stood up, leaving the check on the table. You have 24 hours to decide. If you truly love Marcus, you'll do what's best for him, even if it breaks your heart. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stood by my bedroom window, looking out at the city lights, Victoria's words echoing in my mind. Was I really holding Marcus back? Were my own insecurities and the whispers of others damaging the man I loved? I thought about Zara sleeping peacefully in the next room. My daughter had known stability for the first time in her life. She had a father figure who adored her, a beautiful school, a future full of possibilities. Was I being selfish by staying? Or would I be betraying everything I had taught Zara about never giving up? In the living room, Zara's drawing still hung on the refrigerator, the one of our family, happy and whole. I touched it gently, tears streaming down my face. The next morning I called in sick to work. I spent the day looking at apartments in other cities, researching schools for Zara, trying to imagine a life without Marcus. When Zara came home from school, she found me packing boxes. Mama, what are you doing? Just organizing, baby. Nothing for you to worry about. But Zara was 7 now, and she was smart. She could see the sadness in my eyes, the way my hands shook as I folded clothes. Are we moving away from Daddy Marcus? My composure cracked. I knelt down and pulled Zara into my arms. Would that make you sad, baby? Yes, Zara said, her voice fierce. He's my daddy. He loves us. Why would we leave him? I closed my eyes, holding my daughter tight. Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices to protect the people they love. But Mama, Zara said, pulling back to look at my face, you told me that when something is right, you fight for it. You don't run away. Out of the mouths of babes. That evening, Marcus arrived at my apartment as usual, but something was different. I was quieter, more distant. When he tried to kiss me, I pulled away slightly. Maya, what's wrong? I couldn't tell him about his mother, about the check that was still sitting in my purse. Instead, I said, I've been thinking about us, about whether this is fair to you. Marcus's blood ran cold. What do you mean? Your company is in trouble, Marcus. Your board doesn't trust you. Maybe they're right. Maybe you are distracted. Maya, stop. He took my hands. Don't let them get in your head. What we have is real good. It's worth fighting for. But what if it's not enough? The words came out broken, filled with all my fears and insecurities. What if I'm not enough? Marcus cupped my face, his eyes intense. You are everything. You and Zara are everything. But as he held me, I wondered if love was enough to overcome the obstacles we faced, if it was enough to silence the voices that said I didn't belong. The next day, everything came to a head. I was in my office when my assistant knocked on the door. Miss Johnson, there's an emergency board meeting. Mr. Thompson requested that you attend. My heart sank. I had a feeling I knew what this was about. The boardroom was packed when I arrived. Marcus sat at the head of the table, his face grim. James Mitchell, the corporate raider trying to take over Thompson Industries, sat on the opposite end with a smug smile. Miss Johnson, Mitchell said as I entered. Perfect timing. We were just discussing your unique qualifications. James, Marcus warned, his voice dangerous. Oh, come now, Marcus. Let's be honest about what's happening here. Mitchell stood up, addressing the room. Thompson Industries has been bleeding money and talent for months.
And why?
Because our CEO is more interested in playing house than running a company. I felt every eye in the room turn to me. I wanted to disappear, to sink into the floor. You're out of line, Marcus said, standing. Am I? Let's look at the facts. Miss Johnson here was hired 18 months ago despite having no relevant experience in corporate marketing. She's been promoted twice in record time. She has her own office, her own budget, and somehow her daughter has the run of the executive floor. Mitchell's smile was cruel. Face it, Marcus. You're a laughingstock. The business community is watching you make a fool of yourself over a woman who's clearly using you for financial security. The room erupted. Board members shouted over each other. Marcus looked ready to physically attack Mitchell, but I had heard enough. I stood up slowly, my voice cutting through the chaos. You're right. The room fell silent. Marcus turned to me, his face stricken. You're right, I repeated, my voice steady despite the tears in my eyes. I don't belong here. I never did. Maya, no. I'm sorry, I said, looking directly at Marcus. I'm sorry for making you choose between your company and your heart. I'm sorry for being a distraction. I'm sorry for not being enough. I walked out of that boardroom with my head held high, leaving behind the job I had worked so hard for, the life I had built, and the man I loved. That afternoon, I sat in my car outside Zara's school, my resignation letter on the passenger seat. I had cleaned out my office, said goodbye to Jasmine, and tried to ignore the pitying looks from my colleagues. Victoria's check was in my purse along with a one-way plane ticket to Charlotte, North Carolina, where my sister lived. I had called the school to withdraw Zara, called the landlord to break my lease. It was over. When Zara got in the car, she immediately sensed something was wrong. Mama, why are your eyes red? Just tired, baby. Listen, how would you feel about visiting Aunt Sarah in Charlotte? Zara's face scrunched up. For how long? I couldn't answer. I started the car and drove home in silence, my heart breaking with every mile. That evening, as I packed our belongings, Zara sat on her bed watching. Mama, I don't want to leave Daddy Marcus. I know, baby, but sometimes. No. Zara's voice was firm, startling in its intensity. I looked up, surprised. What? You're being scared again. Zara. When we lived in the old apartment, you were scared all the time. Scared about money, scared about jobs, scared about everything. Then we met Daddy Marcus and you stopped being scared. You smiled more. You laughed more. You were happy. Zara climbed onto my lap. Now you're scared again. And it's making you do something dumb. Zara. Daddy Marcus loves us. We love him. That's not scary. That's good. I held my daughter close, amazed by her wisdom. Sometimes, baby, love isn't enough to fix everything. But it's enough to try, Zara said simply. The next morning was Saturday. I had planned to catch the noon flight to Charlotte, but Zara had other ideas. I need to go to the office, she announced at breakfast. Baby, Daddy Marcus isn't working today. He's always working on Saturday.
He told me.
And I need to tell him something important. My heart ached. I couldn't deny my daughter this goodbye, even though it would destroy us both. An hour later, we stood outside Thompson Industries. The building was quieter on weekends, with only essential staff and executives who couldn't let go of work. Marcus was indeed in his office, sitting behind his desk with his head in his hands. He looked up when we entered, his face lighting up before reality crashed back down. Maya, I've been calling you. We need to talk. I came to say goodbye, I said quietly. Marcus's face went pale.
No.
No, you don't get to do this. You don't get to run away. I'm not running away. I'm setting you free. I don't want to be free. His voice cracked. I want you. I want our family. I want our life together. Zara had been listening quietly, but now she stepped forward. Daddy Marcus, can I tell you something? He knelt down to her level. Of course, little one. Mama thinks she's not good enough for you. She thinks people are right when they say mean things about her. Marcus's eyes shot to me. I looked away. But I know something those people don't know, Zara continued. I know that before you, Mama cried every night. I know that she worked 3 jobs and still couldn't pay all the bills. I know that she used to look at me and worry that she was failing me. Zara's voice grew stronger. And I know that when you came into our lives, everything changed. Not because you have money, not because you have a big office, but because you saw how special Mama really is. She turned to me. Mama, remember what you told me when those girls at school were being mean? You said that other people's opinions don't change who you are. You said that when you know something is right, you fight for it. I was crying now, my defenses crumbling. Well, this is right, Mama. We're a family, and families fight for each other. Suddenly, the office door burst open. Jasmine rushed in, her face flushed with excitement. Mr. Thompson, you need to see this. She held up her phone, showing a video that had been posted online. It's from yesterday's board meeting. Someone recorded it. My stomach dropped. The last thing I wanted was for our private pain to be made public. But as the video played, I realized it wasn't the confrontation with Mitchell that had gone viral. It was what happened after I left. The video showed Marcus standing in the boardroom, his voice clear and strong. Let me be very clear about something. Maya Johnson is not a distraction. She's not a charity case. She's the most talented marketing professional I've ever worked with. She's increased our revenue by 30%. She's brought in major clients through her creativity and hard work. The camera captured every word as Marcus continued. And yes, I love her. I love her daughter. They are my family, and if you think that makes me weak, then you don't know what real strength looks like. He turned to Mitchell. You want to know what's really destroying this company? It's not love. It's not family. It's people like you who think success means sacrificing everything good in your life. The video showed Marcus walking out of the boardroom, leaving stunned silence behind. It's been shared over 1 million times, Jasmine said, her voice filled with awe. The comments are incredible. People are calling it the most romantic thing they've ever seen. But I wasn't looking at the phone. I was looking at Marcus, seeing the truth in his eyes. You didn't fight for me, I whispered. You fought for us. Always, he said simply. The aftermath was swift. The viral video had turned public opinion in favor of Marcus and Thompson Industries. Major clients called to express their support. The board members who had questioned Marcus's leadership suddenly found themselves on the wrong side of history. James Mitchell's takeover attempt crumbled as investors pulled out, unwilling to be associated with someone who had been portrayed as heartless and calculating. But more importantly, I finally understood what Marcus had been trying to tell me all along. I was worthy of love. I was worthy of success. I was worthy of fighting for. 3 months later, on a beautiful October day, Thompson Industries hosted a very special event. The company's main conference room had been transformed with white flowers, soft music, and warm lighting. I stood at the front of the room in a simple but elegant ivory dress, my hair swept up in a style that showed off the pearl earrings Marcus had given me. I looked radiant, confident, and completely myself. Marcus stood beside me in a perfectly tailored black suit, his eyes never leaving my face. He looked like a man who had found everything he had ever wanted. And between us, in a beautiful flower girl dress that she had picked out herself, stood Zara. Her hair was adorned with tiny white flowers, and her smile was bright enough to light up the entire room. Do you, Marcus Thompson, take Maya Johnson to be your wife, to love and cherish through all of life's challenges and joys? I do, Marcus said, his voice strong and sure. Do you, Maya Johnson, take Marcus Thompson to be your husband, to support and encourage through all of life's adventures? My voice was clear and confident. I do. And do you, Zara Johnson, accept Marcus as your father, to love and be loved by as you become a family? Zara's response was immediate and joyful. I do. You do. I do. The room erupted in laughter and applause. Marcus knelt down and lifted Zara into his arms, then pulled me close. I now pronounce you husband and wife and daughter. You may kiss your bride. As Marcus kissed me, Zara threw her arms around both of us. We're a real family now. We always were, little one, Marcus whispered. We always were. The reception was held in the Thompson Industries lobby, the same place where Zara had first walked in with my dreams. The space was decorated with lights and flowers, filled with employees, friends, and family. Victoria Thompson sat at a corner table, watching her son dance with his new wife and daughter. She had flown in from New York that morning, uninvited but not unwelcome. After the ceremony, she approached me quietly. I owe you an apology, Victoria said, her voice softer than I had ever heard it. You don't owe me anything, I replied graciously. Yes, I do. I tried to destroy something beautiful because I was afraid. I was afraid that if Marcus loved you, it would mean he had forgiven me for leaving him, and I wasn't sure I deserved forgiveness. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. But watching him today, seeing how happy he is, I realized that love isn't about deserving. It's about choosing. And he chose well. She handed me a small wrapped box. This was my mother's. I always planned to give it to Marcus's wife someday. I just never imagined she would be someone I would be so proud to call my daughter-in-law. Inside the box was a beautiful vintage necklace, simple but elegant. Thank you, I said softly. And Victoria, he's never stopped hoping you would come back into his life. Victoria smiled through her tears. Maybe it's time I stopped running away from the people who love me. Later that evening, after the guests had gone home and the decorations had been packed away, Marcus, Zara, and I sat together in our new home, a beautiful house in Decatur with a big backyard and a tire swing that Marcus had installed just for Zara. Mama, tell me the story again, Zara said, curled up between her parents on the couch. Which story, baby? The story about how I saved our family. Marcus and I exchanged smiles. It had become Zara's favorite bedtime story, the tale of how a little girl with a big heart and even bigger courage had walked into a corporate office and changed 3 lives forever. Once upon a time, I began, there was a little girl who loved her mama so much that she was willing to do anything to help her. As I told the story, Marcus held us both close, marveling at how a single moment of courage had led to a lifetime of love. 5 years later, Marcus stood before a packed auditorium at Georgia State University, delivering the commencement address to the graduating class. In the audience, I sat with 12-year-old Zara and our new addition, 2-year-old Michael, who had his father's eyes and my smile. Life has a way of surprising us, Marcus told the graduates. Sometimes the most important moments come in the smallest packages. Sometimes the greatest courage comes from the most unexpected places. He found my face in the crowd and smiled. I learned that lesson from a 5-year-old girl who walked into my office one day and taught me that love isn't about deserving or earning. It's about showing up. It's about fighting for what matters. It's about believing that everyone deserves a chance to be seen for who they really are. The audience erupted in applause. In the front row, Zara stood up and waved at her father, her gap-toothed grin visible from across the room. After the ceremony, as our family walked across campus, Zara skipped ahead, a graduation cap borrowed from one of the graduates tilted at a jaunty angle. "Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be like you," she called back to Marcus. "Like me?" Marcus laughed.
Why?
"Because you see people's hearts, not just their outside stuff." I slipped my hand into Marcus's, our wedding rings catching the afternoon sunlight.
She's right, you know.
"That's your superpower." "No," Marcus said, looking at his family, his wife, his daughter, his son. "My superpower is having the courage to love and be loved. And I learned that from both of you." As we walked toward our car, Zara suddenly stopped and pointed to a young woman sitting alone on a bench, crying over what looked like a rejection letter. "Daddy, she looks sad. Should we help her?" Marcus and I looked at each other and smiled. Our daughter's compassion, the trait that had brought us together, was still as strong as ever. "What do you think we should do?" Marcus asked. Zara thought for a moment, then walked over to the young woman. "Hi, I'm Zara. Are you okay?" And as Marcus and I watched our daughter offer kindness to a stranger, we knew that the legacy of love we were building would continue far beyond our own lives. "Listen, honey, I'm telling you this story because I need you to understand something. Sometimes the smallest acts of courage change everything. Sometimes love shows up in the most unexpected ways. And sometimes the bravest feet really do wear the smallest shoes." In a world that often tells us we're not enough, my family and I discovered that love isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about showing up. It's about fighting for what matters. Our story reminds us that families come in all shapes and sizes, that courage has no age limit, and that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply believe in each other. What started with my little girl's love for me became a testament to the transformative power of choosing to see the best in people, even when the world suggests otherwise. You see, love always finds a way, and sometimes it arrives in the smallest shoes. So, I want to ask you something. When was the last time you fought for what really mattered? When was the last time you chose love even when it was hard? Because that's what this story is really about. It's about believing that you're worthy of the good things, even when the world tells you otherwise. It's about showing up for the people you love, even when you're scared. It's about having the courage to be seen. If my story touched your heart today, do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And drop a comment below telling me about a time when someone believed in you when nobody else did. I read every single comment, and your stories inspire me to keep sharing these messages. Until next time, remember, you are worthy, you are enough, and your story matters. This is Auntie D, and I'll see you in the next one.